What's up, guys? It's the Wednesday Link, and we're only a couple minutes late. It's much better than it was last week. Was not stuck
Much
in
better than
traffic,
last
but
week.
it is what it is. And we're sitting here also with a lot more positivity, even after winning last week or 2 weeks ago. It's a
Sure.
better win coming off of that against the Bengals. Still, we're gonna have national, pundits and reactions. Everybody else give excuses, but still, it's a win, and we got to take it for what it is. But how you doing? How you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing good. You talk about a good win. When was the last time we had a good win in Philadelphia? It feels like it's been ages. And I saw a couple of those national pundits who, made a couple of excuses this week. But overall, it was very warm towards Philadelphia from a national media perspective. I think people are starting to buy in a lot more than they did a couple of weeks ago, especially after this big win against what most people consider a good football team in the Cincinnati Bengals. And I even saw some national media pundits throughout 2022 Jalen Hurts, Josh. So, I don't know if that's
Whoa.
exactly where we're at just yet, but we will take it nonetheless.
Yes, we absolutely will. And I saw a couple of those references to, hey, the 2022 offense, Jalen
Yep.
Hurts, a little bit of
Yep.
breakdown, also Kellen Moore. And we sat here a number of times having the show and being like, we're not seeing Kellen Moore. This is not his offense. It's definitely not a vast majority of his offense. And,
Right.
if people want to say, oh, well, you guys can't tell, you can't understand, you still point back to, like, look, there's a flavor of Kellen Moore offense that everyone can dictate and figure out versus what we've already seen. And
Right.
thankfully, we're getting a lot of that so far, and hopefully it'll just build on it. The Jalen Hurts presser as well was interesting. Was fascinating to get
I
his
liked it.
insight on what changed, what went into that, how he feels about this offense. But I mean, I think overall the vibes of this team are just. I can't help because I'm trying to not get too carried away. I'm not going to go to
Sure.
the overboard like, oh, we're winning the Super Bowl. I know I've seen some of those comments, but like it's building in the right direction for sure, but you just see the vibes. You're like, man, Jalen's having fun again. He's jovial. I mean, I don't know when I've ever seen him, quite honestly, sit in a press conference and have like, all right, guys, think that's time. And sits there and just does not get up. And he's like, wait, hang on, you didn't ask me this other question. Normally, he'd be like, thanks, I'm gone. Like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to give you anything. And he's actually like just welcoming other questions because he's kind of embracing that role, I think, more so. And you can tell he's having fun and enjoying this team.
You know what this really is, Josh? All of that plus the fact that the talent is finally living up to the play on the football field, right? That's the main reason why we're
Mhm.
all so excited. It's not that we suddenly figured out, oh yeah, this is a good football team, or oh wow, they're overachieving right now. Every single Eagles fan was so excited going into 2024 for one reason. This was the best roster they have constructed in a long time. I would argue better than 2022 just due to the Saquon Barkley effect and obviously the cornerbacks in the secondary as well. But there was still the argument maybe that team was better. Either way, one of
Mhm.
the best we've seen in the last 2 decades, right? But they weren't playing up to that level. And we started to go, okay, coaching holding them back. Is Jalen holding them back? Was it a mixture of both? I think the answer is yes. I think definitely coaching was, as we'll talk about. I think Jalen definitely wasn't playing up to his expected level, whether that's 2022 or just below that. And then you saw a nice win, at least, maybe not a nice win, but a win versus the Browns. You saw more of a dominant win versus the New York Giants. And then you saw a completely dominant win versus a good opponent this past week. And that's where the excitement reigns from because now it's like, wait a second, this roster is playing up to its level. This roster can compete with anybody on any given week. And that's where the hype is starting to kind of really flow in from, in my opinion.
It is, and shout out to Brett Coleman. I mean, many others have done this breakdown and everything else, but
Yes.
like for a guy like Brett Coleman who knows ball and has his own channel as well as the bootleg football
Yep.
podcast, and being able to talk about different teams. We see like last year, it's like the Eagles run this high school offense. He did a big video about that, and
Yeah.
it blew up and went crazy. But he even said himself, which this is a more unbiased opinion. We would still try to, as much as possible. Hey, it's fair and maybe slightly biased, but still, I also agree. It's like
Yeah.
NFC wise, it's Detroit and it's Philly. But Brett Coleman
I think
said the
so.
same thing. He's like, it's Detroit and it's Philly. It's not Detroit and the Niners, which he would have said previously. He's like, no. I watched them, and now I'm telling you, it's Detroit and it's Philly. And if Philly keeps this
Yeah.
up, they have all the talent in the world. And before it was, hey, we're going to go out talent you. Now it is, we have the talent and we're going to out scheme you. And that's what you've seen these last couple games of if they continue to build off of that. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team. Still, you have to continue to keep that up, but
Sure.
a lot of hype there, a lot of reason for optimism. Before we dive into everything else, we obviously should mention this, as people have probably already seen as well, but if you have missed it somehow, in the comments or description section here, as well as some of our other videos we've done previously. Thomas and I have a incredible giveaway, the best giveaway I think that we've done
Pretty
so
good.
far, which is 2 lower level tickets to the Eagles Commanders game, Thursday Night Football, November 14th, lower level, section 106. So we're going to be giving away 2 tickets. Make sure you enter that. There's links in the descriptions as well of these videos, people watching it back, just catching it late, or if you just want to venture on to the channel pages and watch the game recap videos. That's where you can enter in. Make sure to sub to both channels, and someone will win, which we'll draw for that at halftime of the Jags game, the Kelly Green game. So it doesn't get much better than that, even though, Thomas, you did jinx the Commanders to win.
How about that? Yeah,
Still,
I literally crafted my tweet. For those who didn't see it, I said, it's like a Jalen Hurts joke, like, oh, look who's leading the NFC East, because they were about to be, if the Commanders would have lost. I had it ready to go once the Bears scored that touchdown, and then I was like, I waited on it for a second. I said, nah, let's go ahead and do it. And I sent it, and then literally 5 seconds later, they threw the Hail Mary. So I did jinx that. But this is, a huge giveaway. I mean, lower level Eagles tickets. I don't know if everyone has been lower level at Lincoln Financial Field. I know I've been lower level once. The rest of the time I've been in the 200s, the 300s with you. I mean, come on, tickets are expensive these days. And so super, super pumped to be partnering with you to give these away, and hopefully give them to somebody who obviously is sub. That's the rule, and then can go to the game and enjoy it and see us there, because we're going to be at the game as well. We'll be walking around, have a bunch of fun, and hopefully meet up with you guys as well. We'll for sure try and meet up with whoever wins, since they're going to be at the game. We'll connect with them to send them the tickets, and then we'll, message each other whenever we're at the game and try and link up there for a picture and stuff like that. So very fun.
For sure.
Josh, the story of the day, which you go ahead and put in the title of this video, actually, is the whole Lane Johnson spoiling to Brian Baldinger, because we know that's where Brian Baldinger gets all his Eagle information.
Of course. Yep.
That a contingent of Philadelphia Eagles went to the coaching staff, whether it's Sirianni or Kellen Moore or Vic Fangio, who knows, and they said, we need to change up the defense and change up the offense. And, I didn't, we know they did this during the bye week, right? It's not necessarily like hidden news, but was it actually going to contribute to them getting better on the football field? And there's been 3 main categories where they've gotten better. Under center snaps, that's tripled from where it was pre-bye week. I mean, 21 under center snaps this past week versus 7, 6, 8 over the first couple of weeks of the year. Play action pass, and then obviously running the football earlier on in games where they would kind of get away from the run, and then they wouldn't do it early on in first down snaps and stuff like that. Those 3 things have skyrocketed and have definitely contributed to Philadelphia being better. And so credit the contingent that called out the coaching staff, credit the coaching staff for accepting it and making the changes. And here we are, a 5-2 football team that's trending in the right direction.
You're right. Yes. And kudos to them for changing, even to Sirianni, right? Because it's a willingness to change, as much as we would say, obviously, for the X's and O's, it's been difficult to watch and all this other stuff. But, obviously people see as well the clip there. Baldy was breaking down, had some great breakdowns from the play action, under center, O-line help, all this other stuff. And then there was naturally the comment as well from an individual asking why it took them 8 weeks to do it. And then, like you say, there was the case in point from Baldy, which if he's saying a few guys, then we therefore know who at least one of those was in going to the coaches and talking about that. But I think that it's one of those where, you see the difference that it makes, for one, of having the players be confident enough to speak up about this, but also to have another full-on plan to where this thing could go, right? Because last year we could say, and I saw some comments on this, and totally it's a fair initial thought, I suppose, of where you go and well, why didn't we see this last year? Why didn't we have players? Well, we started to. We kind of did. We had rumors of oh, well, is the locker room being lost? Players are upset with this. They're fed up with the offense and all this other stuff. But there was not really anywhere else to go. Brian Johnson had not, really planned out his full system, whether or not he was going to. From the very early stages, it was, hey, Sirianni's going to run his offense, you're going to call those plays, and that's about it. But Brian Johnson has not had a chance, or had not had a chance as an offensive coordinator either, whereas instead this time, it's Kellen Moore coming in, and we had heard all throughout the offseason, all throughout the preseason, training camp, getting glimpses of it, the videos, the breakdowns, everything of, oh my gosh, the Eagles are going to run under center. They're going to use play action. They're going to have motion and all this other stuff. And seeing the small glimpses that we did, then, it
Right.
continued to regress. But the fact that you have that to fall back on, whether it was Sirianni stepping in too closely, I don't know, but it's a really big positive for this team because we look at it offensively there. Now there's a report of players going, coaching staff being open to that change. You
Yep.
see it against the Bengals. Same thing for the defense. We don't know to what extent there was an incident, but Nakobe Dean said there was an incident coming out of the bye week that would have pulled teams apart, and yet it actually made them grow closer. They're playing more for each other. They have a whole different level of confidence and trust in Vic Fangio's scheme and system and him himself. So, I mean, all in all, you look at it for both sides and say this is drastically different before we even get into the scheme, which we know is drastically different, but a drastically different feeling team, which is why I say again, it's like the vibes of the squad. We don't go too far to the extreme, but it is building and it definitely in the right direction compared to last year, week 8. You and I would have these breakdowns all the time. We're like, Thomas, this is what's going on. Like, we're winning these games, but why is it
Yeah.
so close? Why can we not get a single game where it's like, we have all the talent in the world. You should be able to capitalize and take advantage. But now it's like the potential for this group looks so much better. They still have to get there, but the potential looks so much better for this group now as opposed to last season at week 8.
Totally agree. I totally agree. A couple of comments are starting to roll in here. Appreciate 500 people watching between both channels. I
There we go.
see Ethan C. Gamer says, Yo, Thomas and Josh, what's your trade deadline predictions for the Eagles? I don't think that they would make a move. Like if I had to bet money, I would say no move. If there is a move, I can talk about it on my show tomorrow. It'll be a lesser known move. If Maxx Crosby is not getting traded from the Raiders, that is not happening, and the Raiders themselves have said it's not happening to Adam Schefter a couple of days ago. I think Myles Garrett might get moved. I don't think he's going to be a Philadelphia Eagle. I think there's another team that's got a lot more extra cap space that has a quarterback on a rookie contract is going to go ahead and make the move for Myles Garrett. So if it's that sort of move, smaller, Zadarius Smith, we mentioned that name. A couple of edge rushers from Denver, which I think is a little interesting. I saw Adam Thielen linked to us today as like a suggestion. Receiver to me doesn't make any sense. It would be a lower level pass rusher who's on a rookie contract at the end or about to be a free agent. It'll be for a 5th or a 6th round draft pick, and they'll mix him into the rotation and hope he gives you a couple of sacks the rest of the year. That's my prediction.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I did see some of those as well of the rumored speculation. Again, this is
Sure.
the time of year, obviously, where that happens. I will say, like, rewind maybe a week, certainly 2 weeks, but probably even a week ago. And you and I both are like on the show, but also just texting offline and being like, oh, I think the deadline could be, some bigger moves or some
Right.
more moves and potential there. But you see this team now, and then even Vic Fangio's comment of like, no, we don't need to make a move. We're set. It's like it's a good place to be in, but it's very interesting because I wouldn't have anticipated this one much earlier in the season. Like I say, certainly the last couple weeks, even leading up to
Right.
this. Yet now, maybe a depth signing somewhere within, like you say, pass rush could be something smaller. If you really wanted to fortify something, maybe you go out there and you say, well, let's get another linebacker potentially. Even though the linebackers are starting to play much better, I've seen a couple
Right.
of those be thrown out there. But overall, I mean, it's really small moves. They could be
Yeah.
significant at the end of the year. Who knows where players end up? But ultimately, yeah, I'm not of the mindset as I was like previously and a week ago saying, well, if you made not necessarily Myles Garrett or Maxx Crosby, but also, if you made a semi-significant type of move. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I'd probably be as surprised if Howie Roseman were to go out and get like some sort of mid-tier signing as I would be if he just stayed pat and was like, "Nah, we're
Yeah.
good. Like we don't
Yeah.
need to do anything." So Cool
I
Brain
think
says trade for Azeez Ojulari.
I was
It
gonna
would be
say
great. I
I would
just
like him.
I don't know. I don't know that you're going to make that significant of a move. I mean, Nolan's playing better. You got the edge rush, the pass rush coming on. Josh Sweat's getting the pressures. Bryce Huff has. We didn't have as many sacks, but
He's
Joe Burrow
improved.
is he's pretty good at maneuvering the pocket. He had some pressure, but he was able to elude some of those sacks that should have happened. I don't know. I see some other comments. Definitely a lot of other takes as well of who we should go get, but. I mean, that's the fun of it. We'll obviously be live if and when we make a move. I don't know. It could be crazy. We may have a full Tuesday without any moves and say, all right, well, this is the squad. This is what we're going to have.
Kayla Thompson says, heard Walker's possibility. That's Trayvon Walker, the former first-round draft pick of the Jaguars. I think if you crush the Jaguars could then, in fact, be sellers because they'll be like 2-7 or whatever the number is, right? They've obviously been terrible this year. I would
Mm-hmm.
love Trayvon Walker. The problem, of course, is the contract you're going to have to give him, but he would be cheaper than a Crosby or a Garrett. He'd probably be my number one pick if you couldn't get Crosby or Garrett, but the odds of them actually getting rid of him doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Like, when you look at a team like Jacksonville, they're obviously sellers because of their record, but they're not sellers because of their overall roster, right? If you still have Trevor Lawrence, you can compete any time of the year, and getting rid of a star pass rusher or a good pass rusher like Walker is kind of
Mm-hmm.
iffy. So I like that idea. But Ojulari is a name. If he wasn't a Giant, I think Howie would be all over it. I'd be very surprised if the Giants want to give away 2 good players to Philadelphia this offseason or this year because they already obviously lost on Saquon Barkley. So I agree with you, Josh. I'll be very surprised if there is a move, and I'll be very surprised if it's not a mid-level move, if that is a move. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't think the deadline's going to be that busy this year, right? I mean, previous years there's been bigger names, a lot of speculation. This guy get moved, that guy get moved. A lot depends what happens this Sunday, right? The Jets lose on Thursday night. Does that make them more of sellers? Basically being eliminated from playoff contention
Yeah.
this early. But
Should
there's
be.
plenty of things that can happen based on what actually happens on Sunday. And so, as Josh said, we'll keep an eye on it, and we will see exactly what happens. Harold Landry's name is in the chat a lot, Josh. Isn't he on a massive contract? Isn't that the problem with Harold Landry? It's like $18 million to get
I
him
was
right
going to
now.
say,
I think
I'm
it's too
pretty
much.
sure it's fairly significant there. I can look up and see the exact numbers here, but
I think he's too expensive.
let's see.
Unless they ate some of his overall contract, right? That could make sense. You've seen trades like that at the deadline in the past where it's like, hey, take this guy, we'll eat some of the dead cap, we'll eat some of the actual salary, you pay him less money, and then of course it makes a little more sense. But
Yeah,
if you're looking
yeah.
at it right now, I think it's pretty much
17
up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
17.25.
big.
So yeah,
It's
it's
big.
and a 23, 24 cap hit for this year. I mean, obviously they're going to take the hit on some of that, and you restructure
Sure.
or ask them to eat. But yeah, and then 17.5 the next couple years, assuming. So not
Probably not.
exactly
Probably.
what you want to sign up for. I don't think from what we see
And again,
with this team.
I was just gonna say, Josh, like it's so clear too that this pass rush has, dramatically improved. I mean, this is a dramatically better pass rush than where it was the first couple of weeks, and so the theory is that they would continue to trend upward. And right now, you have a top 7 defense in the National Football League. All we said for the past 12 months at this point was like be top 15, be top 17,
Mm-hmm.
at worst be top 20. Right? That's all you got to be is top 15 in the National Football
For sure.
League. There's 7 right now, and a massive part of it is coverage. Now, you can make the argument that the coverage is so good, you put an elite pass rusher on that defensive line alongside Jalen Carter, and it just completely unlocks them, and that's obviously for Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio to decide. But I think the corners are playing so darn good that the current pass rush trending in the right direction is good enough to win a lot of playoff games. I mean, truly, I think it's good enough to win a lot of playoff games because where Nolan Smith is right now versus Nolan Smith week 17, Huff's the same way. Moro Jomo, obviously the same way, is obviously going to be an improvement in and of itself.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is. And for any Ted Lasso fans out there, they might understand to get this reference a little bit more. But Brett Coleman texted me today and said, "Quinyon is life. Quinyon is love. Quinyon is life." So just watch the tape, and everybody knows that. But it's like his name was known, and then you kind of get away from rookies that are not your own, right? You're just kind of like, okay, I'm seeing some of guys, but unless it's just like a big statement game, you don't realize or it doesn't come to like full fruition there. But everyone's starting to see, and it's like these early games, I don't mind it because like, hey, the more that we want to just fly under the radar, pick up a dub, the day moves on Sunday, not any prime time or not very many prime time matchups, like that's fine. Let's build some momentum this season. And then we start to play these more meaningful games in primetime matchup with the rest of the league seeing it's like, all right, they got some guys. And so that's why I say this thing's building and definitely headed in the right direction. But yeah, you always got to love that whenever you're getting some praise that way. Also, Brent, appreciate that, said, I made sure to comment any comment in your video, Josh. Thank you. You're entered into the giveaway. I did actually say that. I said, hey, just go comment any comment. So I see what you're doing. That's a good one. I appreciate that. But yes,
I like that.
You're included.
Let's see. Buda Baker. No, they're not going to trade for Buda Baker. Not a chance. There's a 0% chance they trade for Buda Baker. Buda doesn't fit in the defense anymore. Last year, sure.
Last year was the move.
Dejean makes a Buda Baker move completely irrelevant at this point. I mean, again, Q is life, right? We want to talk about the Brett Coleman comment, which subtle little, texting Brett Coleman. That's pretty cool. But I wish you would make an Eagle defensive video. I mean, you talk about the next Brett Coleman video. It does like one a month. It should be about the Philadelphia Eagles, but I digress.
I mean, I'd
Cooper
love to see it.
Dejean has made the secondary even better than we could have ever imagined, right? The hole was at nickel. Avonte Maddox was a big part of it. The tackling of Cooper Dejean is unreal. I mean, it is literally, and it's so funny too, because this is exactly what we thought Cooper Dejean could be, the best version of the draft pick that we got, right? It was like, okay, if he's going to be, a nickel safety box guy who can cover but also tackle, that's what the Eagles need. And they got it. And he has completely changed around this defense. And so there's no need for Buda Baker. You don't have to give up draft picks for Buda, who's going to age out of his prime. He might already be there. The contract, there's just no point. There's no point. And Blankenship's playing great. Gardner Johnson is getting better. Overall, that secondary is, to me, one of the top 5 secondaries in the entire league right now, playing two rookies at corner and safety.
Without a doubt, yes. And it goes both ways, but they make life so much easier on the pass rush, and we've got comments from people as well talking about like what does it do for guys like Nolan Smith and for Bryce Huff? Do we expect them to play well against better pass protection, right? Like against better tackles, because sure, we could go back and look at its backup tackles, or it's not as great play, or it's a quarterback like Deshaun Watson who is going to give you sacks regardless of how good you have your pass protection. But still, it's like, okay, they're taking advantage of the matchup they have. That's all they can do. I mean, that's all we're looking at the moment. They got to do for what they're getting. That's all that they can do. And then beyond that, it's like maybe we start seeing some of. Granted, they're going to play not as great against Jacksonville because they traded away their left tackle to Minnesota, so that might be still an easy matchup. There's not as difficult, but against Dallas should be an interesting test. Certainly against the Commanders game that we will be at, not only pass blocking alone, but can you get Jaden Daniels at all because of his ability to run? I still do. I think that, like I say, this team, a lot of other times I would I don't know, be hesitant and be like, well, okay, they're playing well, cautiously optimistic. And again, I'm not saying like we're going to Super Bowl, but cautiously optimistic in the sense of like, okay, does this team keep it up, or do they kind of hit a wall, or do we regress, or are they going to get tired, or things like that? Now, there's a chance that something like that could happen, but to me, I'm like, this defense is a young defense, and they're improving week by week because they're continuing to get that confidence, get that momentum, learning and believing in Fangio's system. And we've seen the case in point a number of times from Fangio, not even just last year with Miami, but a number of times in his defenses. Is like, hey, early in the season, sometimes they don't really start out the best. And I don't know if that's the comment that Fangio's made a couple times of like, hey, just throw everything in the kitchen sink at them early in the year so that later in the season they have a recall and it's better. But whatever it is, as the season goes on, traditionally, Fangio defenses, certainly with last year, they've gotten better. And so that's what I'm excited about is you've got a ton of guys who can make a ton of plays. And, the turnovers hadn't been there, but we finally got them for this game. If the turnovers continue in that former fashion, it's just setting up to be a absolute incredible, last 10 weeks-ish we're at of the season. So I'm pumped. I am super excited about it.
Desmond Saunders is excited as well. $5 super chat. Des, appreciate that. He says, Demond Sanders says, Josh Thomas, what's poppin'?
What's up?
Eagles fly. There you go. He's pumped. I think that, of course, what you just mentioned, segues well into Jacksonville this week, Josh. I mean, I don't think I would call the Jacksonville Jaguars a trap game. I don't know if we're at that point, right? They're still a very good football team, but we're at the part in the season where what the Jacksonville Jaguars are. It's not like they've had like a bunch of really close, like, oh, they're actually a really great football team. They're really not, right? They're close games coming against like the Miami Dolphins, and then the Packers had to lose Jordan Love. They're still good. We're going to respect them. Trevor Lawrence could pop off, sure. But this does feel like one of those, like the Titan game in 2022, right? Like the Steeler game in 2022. Probably more like the Steeler game because the Steeler defense was better. Their offense was kind of the problem. But it feels like one of those games where the Eagles can kind of flex their muscles and, pull out a nice lead, be comfortable, and kind of show the rest of the National Football League, again, hey, 4th win in a row, another double-digit win, 3rd in a row. We're humming on all cylinders right now, and you should definitely beware.
Yeah, we should take care of business. It is the NFL, so we all understand that. And there's instances where it doesn't really quite make sense of a team winning when,
It
heck,
happens.
we take a
Oh,
look
yeah.
at last week even. It's like, well, hey, Cleveland knocking off Baltimore. I don't think that many
Yeah.
people saw that one coming. Jameis Magic, it is a thing, but still, like, Baltimore was looking unbeatable, and then all of a sudden something like that happens. But ultimately, yeah, this is one of those, you should take care of business. The only way, in my mind, is if you have some turnovers and they're clean with the football. Trevor Lawrence likes to get rid of it pretty quick, so they might
Yeah.
try that type of game. But we still look back and say this is not last year's defense. If it was, I would be every quarterback would scare, because be like, well, okay, you're going to be able to get rid of the ball quick and first down and a million paper cuts to death. But it's not. It has changed, and Fangio's been more aggressive. He will send some blitzes. He'll have a little bit more press coverage. And so because of that, it doesn't make life as easy as it traditionally would. And then all of a sudden, if you get up, then, all bets are off, because it's like, all right, we're going to just go ahead and, pass rush, pin their ears back, pile up the sacks. This one could get, and I think should get ugly, fairly quick, like middle third quarter. Maybe they're hanging on. Maybe it's not until the fourth quarter, but ultimately, you look at the talent on paper. Jacksonville, like I mentioned a second ago, I mean, they traded away their starting left tackle. Like, if you want to do anything, you don't trade away your starting lineman in the middle of a
Yeah.
season. So it's kind of like, look, we're tanking, not fully officially making that statement, but they're tanking. They're getting rid of those guys. Brian Thomas, limited practice, I think today. Obviously, Christian Kirk with the injury is out for
Yeah, he's
4
out.
weeks or longer. And
That was the season. Didn't he break his
or
collarbone?
actually, yeah, maybe the season. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
there's
he's out for the season.
and then there's also who is it? The third string receiver is also limited with some sort of injury. I'm drawing a blank now who that is. Who's the third string? They're down their top three.
Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis. Yes, Gabe
Gabe
Davis.
Hall.
Yep. I got the Baylor on the mind with Siaki
That's
Ika
fine.
being released.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yes, Gabe is also, I believe he was limited as well today. So
Yeah.
I mean, as good as Trevor Lawrence potentially could play,
Sure.
every once in a while, it's just, it feels like this should be like a, I don't know, 30 to, if they take care of business like they should, like a 30-14 game, something like that.
Yep. I think I said 30-17. People were asking me in the chat as we were getting ready to get started here. That's my score prediction, and I always do it every single Saturday show. I ask them to my commenters to correctly predict yards, touchdowns, and picks for either Jalen Hurts or the opposing quarterback to see if they can win a T-shirt. Just because we do a bunch of other giveaways, we don't have to predict something, so it's fun to have the challenge. And I think someone's gonna get it. One guy was 2 yards off of Burrow this past week, and I was like, should I do it? And I was like, no, we're gonna wait for someone to actually nail it, though it's a big deal, but. This feels like a Trevor Lawrence, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He gets strip sacked as well. He throws for like 245, but it's still, like you mentioned, 30-17, 30-14. And the Eagles just start to roll a little bit here. And I think the defensive line is going to have a real chance to keep the sack totals going. That Bengal offensive line, and really Joe Burrow, you said it earlier, really good in the pocket at avoiding pressure. And you saw that the 3rd and 22 was a great example. He should have been sacked twice and then made a great play. And, Cooper Dejean went for him instead of covering tight end. And so, I think Lawrence is not as good as Joe Burrow, and especially not as good as an offensive line as the Bengals have built up there in Cincinnati. And so I'm hoping the pass rush can continue to kind of get better, because really you're seeing defensive linemen with confidence. Nolan Smith is playing, and you've talked about this a ton. Obviously, you're a Nolan Smith guy, with a ton of confidence. Moro Ojomo is playing with a ton of confidence. Shout out to Jordan Davis. Watch some film on him. He's been really good in run-stopping situations. And I think that as Eagle fans, if we accept the fact that he is purely a run stopper on a limited pitch count and specifically run-stopping opportunities, he's been pretty good. And so overall, the confidence of those guys continues to build. And it's fun watching BG and each of his little, media scrums each and every week, where he's kind of like the dad keeping all of his kids in line, right? He knows that he has talented kids. He knows these guys can hit home runs in Little League and, catch touchdowns and Pop Warner, but he's just got to get him pointed in the right direction. He does that every single week, I think, in a really good way, and it's fun to watch. So I think they're going to have a really good chance to be good on Sunday.
For sure, yes. And, obviously, as he told us whenever he came on for an interview during the offseason when we had BG, but he was like, hey, look, I know people are saying Nolan hears it. All the Philly dogs, they hear it. But I'm telling you, specifically with Nolan, he's like, I'm telling you, this is going to be he's going to come out. He's going to be able to actually show something, get some sacks, the power, which we saw more of because he's put on some muscle, and we're starting to see a little bit of that. The power and speed blend, hopefully can continue with that, because as it gets a little bit more difficult tackles. But still, I mean, you love what you see so far. Troy was saying, yes, need Q to get me one. It's going to happen. We loved it at this point because he's had so many interception opportunities, but the fact that we have this youth movement on the defense and you're seeing some of that promise, like I understand, and we've gotten into this conversation, or you get different comments from people of an argument like, oh, well, I was being critical of Nolan Smith, or I wasn't a
Right.
hater. I was just criticizing the play. It's different of, to be
Yeah.
critical is fine, but like to say he's a bust after one season, to say he's a bust after week 1 or week 2 of
Right.
this season, even, it's like, I'm sorry. There's just so many other cases and points, even on our own team, let alone in the entire league. But you look at BG and go, maybe we just pump the brakes, maybe a little bit, because it's not like Nolan played a ridiculous amount of snaps last season too. So we're
True.
coming into
It's
it
true.
seeing, okay, does he change and make a difference? And I think finally we are, which is what we love to see. Super chat here from Shady. Speaking of, Shady is
Shay McCoy.
Shady Day from
That's right.
the Sunday's game. Kelly Green game is going to be Shady's at halftime. Unfortunately, not Sunday Night
Right.
Football, but it'll still be Shady there.
Right.
Appreciate the 10. Says non-biased. I look around the league and it's crazy. I think people really sleep on Philly, and people act like Week 1 win over Green Bay meant nothing. They beat the team when our team wasn't even playing good.
Pull up the standings,
Fair
Josh.
point.
Give us the NFC conference standings whenever you or just throw them up there on the screen. Let's do this right now. And I saw a trade super chat. I think that was CJ Deacon. Excuse me. We'll get to that in a second. CJ, hold your thought. We'll get to trade. We talked about trade earlier. We'll talk about it in a second. But Josh is going to throw up the conference standings here. Look around the NFC conference right now. I mean, truly, there's one team lower than Philadelphia. As I'm looking at the ESPN one here, it's like Detroit, Commanders, Packers, Vikings, Eagles. Atlanta, to me, is a good football team. Philadelphia should have beaten Atlanta. Atlanta has the tiebreaker over the Eagles. That could matter in terms of playoff seeding for division winners. But besides Atlanta, there's nobody else below this belt that I think is a legit Super Bowl contender, right? And I think the Falcons are probably not a Super Bowl contender, but, they could go on a run in the playoffs. They have the personnel to do so, okay? Not the Cardinals. Bucks, to me, are going to be too injured and banged up. San Fran, are they going to have enough time to get healthy? I'm not buying into them. I think they're falling too far behind. The rest of these teams the same way. They'll be pesky. Cowboys, Rams, Seahawks, sure. But really, Detroit is in a class of their own. And then it's a 5-team cluster below it of the Commanders, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Falcons in Philadelphia. Now, Minnesota has, I think, a little bit of, what do you want to call it? Are they overrated? Did they belong there? They're kind of like the pick-me
It's the
team,
Sam Darnold
right?
factor is, I think, what it is.
Yeah, I
Do
don't
we
know.
buy
I don't
Sam
hate
Darnold?
Sam Darnold. I think he's been fine. I don't know if I buy that football team as being Super Bowl ready. What's great about that defense? That defense, I know it was Detroit, but it was like, and the Rams did a really good job passing on them as well. And so I think Philadelphia would match up fine with the Minnesota Vikings. I think the cornerback matchup there with those receivers would be really fun to watch. Green Bay is good. Green Bay's not elite, Josh. And I know we beat them, but week 1 is so far behind. You almost just throw out week 1 altogether because we weren't at 100% in terms of where we are now. Packers are, trying to figure things out. I think Jordan Love is going to be, he's been basically injured every single week this year. He's gone off the football field. I think, again, they're good. They could be a problem, but that defense is not elite, and I don't think the offense has enough weapons to really scare you. And that leaves you with Washington and Detroit. And I think Washington's a good football team. We'll be at that game. The tickets that we're giving away. It's going to be a great matchup, both sides of Philadelphia. But rookie quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls, and that's for a reason. It's very hard to win multiple games in the postseason. And that brings you down to Detroit, where I think they would beat Philadelphia right now. But 10 weeks from now, in Philly, if you got lucky enough to be a higher seed than Detroit because they beat up on each other in the NFC North.
They could.
Who knows? It feels
very
like
possible.
2022, Niners, Eagles, we're on a clear trajectory. Right now, Eagles, Lions, clear trajectory for the NFC title game. But, what do I know? We're just a little biased.
Maybe. But again, we did make the comment beforehand. It's like, look, there are a lot of individuals who really don't have a dog in this fight. And they're saying, we would take the Eagles and the Detroit Lions. Those are the two teams that we would go with.
Yeah.
And so I think it does say something if coming away from the Bengals game, all right, this is the makings are there. Philly still has to do it. We all understand that. We're not crowning them yet. Nothing is happening.
Not at all.
But it's
Not at all.
the makings are there. You see the offense when they're going to be complex, and it makes the team so much more difficult to game plan for. Whereas beforehand, it would be Well, this is way too easy because defensively, they're going to back off. They're going to give you the middle of the field anytime you want it. And then
Right.
offensively, it's going to be from the gun 97% of the time. And if they do run, it'll be inside zone. So just guard inside zone. It won't be
Very
outside
true.
zone. It'll be inside
Very
zone.
true.
And then if they throw the football, it's basically going to be Jalen Hurts trying to one-on-one matchup, whether it's AJ or Smitty. And he's going to take one of those, and that's about it. It was so basic. And so now you have the difference of maybe it's motion, maybe it's Jalen under center, maybe it's
Right.
in the gun, but then there's also a opportunity for Jalen to run the football, who's looking more aggressive to do that now, which is good. But then also the play action element that we've had, throwing over the middle of the field. I mean, the list goes on and on and
Right.
on. So you can't really say, oh, we're going to take away this one area because it's getting more complex. And I think as the season goes on, I just expect it to get even better because it's going to be more confidence. It's going to say, okay, cool, we're starting to master some of these concepts. Let's add in a few extra wrinkles, and the sky's the limit. So, I mean, again, I'm with you right there. I think ultimately there's only one juggernaut right now, currently in the NFC, and that is Detroit, and understandably so because they have played really well. They've taken care of business. The
Yeah.
onslaught that they've had, sure, but it is a long season, like you said, and so we'll see. Come January, all bets are off. Like you take
Yeah.
care of business, and they do beat up on each other because the NFC North is objectively better than
Pretty
the
good.
NFC East. Maybe they have one extra loss in there, and all of a sudden Philly's got the home field advantage. I mean, I'll take my chances. I'll take my chances in the game. Who doesn't want that, obviously? But I think that there is a definite possibility. The talent that you have on this team could certainly stack up because again, you're hoping too that these young defenders just continue to get better as the season goes on.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're playing Detroit, and you never know. You never know. I'm excited about the potential matchup.
CJ Deacon with the 5 I mentioned earlier. Just joined the
Hmm.
stream of how he goes for a trade. Who do you want him to go get now if he does? Well, we mentioned this earlier. Crosby and Garrett. I would just push that to the side. I got my eye right here. Sorry, excuse me. 1% chance Crosby and Garrett. Right? Howie, it's never zero. Shock. I mean, if the only way he goes and gets them is if Howie sits there and goes, "We're a Super Bowl caliber team. We just need imagine an elite pass rusher, right?" Which is
Hmm.
fine. I would be all for it. You would too. You talked about on your show Maxx Crosby for a first and like a third and a fifth and whatever the number was that Diana Rossini threw out. It's like yes, but 1% chance. The next is then that this lower tier of edge rushers, and I do think it will be an edge rusher. And Josh and I, we agree on this. What receiver, linebacker,
Hmm.
safety, offensive lineman, like probably not. It's probably edge rusher. It's a couple from Denver, Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants, Zadarius Smith from the Browns. That's basically it, right? And we're talking about a mid-tier to low-tier edge rusher with a lot of upside. Besides that, I don't think that they're going to do anything. I really have convinced myself that they're not going to go ahead and do that, but we'll see.
I agree. Yep, right there with you in terms of the moves that they might make, or I don't know, even the potential for the positions there. Joel also, I don't know if we hit on Joel's the two. He said week 10 through 13 will be an interesting stretch. I may have missed that one, but appreciate that. Yes, weeks 10 through 13. Um, we're capitalizing right now within the matchup, but yes, within weeks 10 through 13, you're talking about as I'm trying to pull it up here to get to as well. But you've got at
Right.
Dallas, you've got the Washington game, obviously the one that we'll be at, then at LA, and then at
Yep.
Baltimore. So, you know, even if we say, hey, Dallas is not, they're not strong this year, but it's Dallas playing in Dallas. Just get the monkey off our back and get that win. But then you have competitive teams this year that no matter where you're playing them at. But Commanders
Right.
game, LA, they're starting to get healthy. So despite what people may even want to see earlier in the year, it's a different team as we saw against Minnesota. So if they keep that up at
Yeah.
LA, and then I mean heck yeah, Baltimore has been already really good. But then they make the trade for Deontay Johnson. And I didn't really expect for them to do that, but they're totally going all
Pretty
in
good.
with the weapons. So
Yep.
it won't be easy. That'll be a very, very difficult game individually, and then also be a tough stretch. Shady
Sure.
with a five more actually said our defense is better than San Fran's, and that's always been
Yep.
a strong unit for them. Not this year. They suck. Well,
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco doesn't suck. They're
they've had some
just
injuries, so
pretty mediocre right now. Yeah, I mean, if you were to take Jalen Hurts, and we've seen this before, take off AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Devontae Smith, it'd be a different overall offense. The same goes for Brock Purdy and the Niners. I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. But, Debo's been in and out of the lineup. Ayuk is now done. Kittle is their only guy right now. And, they're on their like fourth running back. So I understand offensively, but defensively, it is not what it was in 2022, right? I mean, we forget going into that NFC title game. Yeah, it was Purdy, but it was more like, is Purdy going to be able to perform in the NFC Championship game? It was like, what can this Eagle offense do against the Niner defense? It's no longer like that. They still have pieces. Bosa, Warner. The backside is not nearly as good as it was 2 years ago. And that's where I think Philadelphia would definitely have an edge if they played them again. And what is McCaffrey going to be whenever he comes back, right? Is he going to be MVP level Christian McCaffrey? I would be surprised if he would. I think he'll be more like pain management, workload management, Christian McCaffrey, to try to like boost them into the postseason and then get lucky. And so I agree. I don't, think that they're terrible, but I do think that they're a mid-level team versus where Philadelphia is looking like they can be going forward. It's almost like the roles reversed from last year, Josh. Although we were dysfunctional, the Niners aren't dysfunctional, but like we were clearly, after that Week 14 matchup, not as good as the 49ers. And I think if we played in like a Week 14 matchup, we would definitely notice that as well.
Certainly, yeah, for sure. With the trajectories of where these teams are going, granted, they do have some injuries, but still, it doesn't seem to be the exact same for those teams. Joel, I see your comment there says you guys missed the super chat. That may be a little bit delayed because we are on a delay, but we did hit that one. That was the Week 10 through 13 interesting stretch. I did put that one up there, but yes, the weeks 10 through 13 being difficult. We mentioned going through obviously those teams. Going to be tough. LA Kid also was asking to double check and make sure, and I can confirm, we both can confirm, if the Eagles do make a move, we will be going live. So just, make sure to subscribe, obviously, and turn the notifications on because we'll be the first to let you guys know if it's a Myles Crosby or or Maxx Crosby, excuse me, I'm doubling up those. But if we get a Maxx Crosby or a Myles Garrett or something like that, then we'll be freaking out. We'll definitely be going live. If it's a little bit to the lesser extent, we'll still be live. It just won't be to the absolute extreme. And if you can hear in the background the girl screaming, that'll be me if we get a Myles Garrett or Maxx Crosby. It'll be
there you go.
Absolute
happy
berserk
screams.
is what. Yes, definitely happy screams.
Yeah, one quick thing before we're getting close to the top of the hour here on Garrett. I want Garrett as much as everybody. I wouldn't give up 3 first-round draft picks for Myles Garrett. I just couldn't do it, right? 2 first-round draft picks is still going to be a lot to swallow. I would prefer 1 and then picks. The draft is so, and I get it, right? When will another Garrett be in the NFL draft? I understand. But you think about giving up your first or second-round draft pick for somebody. No Quinyon, no Cooper Dejean this past year. Previous year, no Nolan Smith, no Jalen Carter, right? And I get that the proven commodity, but players on rookie contracts is a serious thing, Josh. And if you can hit on a first-round pick like Quinyon Mitchell, you have a top 5 cornerback for the next 4 plus, maybe an extra 5th year at a bargain price, pennies on the dollar. He's millions of dollars less than a Pat Surtain and a Sauce Gardner. And so I think that is a factor in, Myles Garrett needs to be the highest paid guy at his position for the next 5 years. And so I am for it. I just want to make sure we're being smart about it as well. And I know Howie will. I think Dotson, that trade failing for a third has probably really brought Howie down in terms of the trade hype, right? If Dotson would have hit, he's probably more gung-ho. But Dotson not hitting and Howie watching one of his precious third-round draft picks go out the building, swap and stuff, whatever. It's like he's probably a little bit more gun-shy, in my opinion.
Yeah. And probably not as much even of like, I can't hit this next trade, so to speak, but just as you're saying, like he's already given up draft capital that is not really turned into too much. And so the case of like, do we risk, do we chance it? Do we go there? Do we say, Dotson, even though he's not production on the field, like we'll just make do, whether it is him, whether it's Anaya Smith, Britton Covey, whoever that wide receiver 3 needs to be, we can be okay, but let's not go ahead and just go out there and force something if he doesn't absolutely love who the player might be to bring in, and also that he can't get, some sort of compensation that really makes sense and is very favorable for the team. But you make it, it's a great point because, the Eagles, it's the changing of the guard, but it's also the youth movement. And we've seen a number of times, like, hey, you get these guys through the draft and you capitalize on that. But you have a Fletcher Cox, a Lane Johnson, a Jason Kelsey, these types of players, like that's where this thing is hopefully trending. You've made some draft selections recently. They're looking promising with a few. There was some hesitation with Nolan Smith, and we all understand that, but it's starting to look better. And if they can continue to transition, and heck, we haven't even gotten to see Sidney Brown out there yet because of the depth on this squad. But like,
Right.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
good
of
point.
consistency that we could start seeing, especially within the youth players on the defense. And that's got to be, I mean, extremely refreshing for one, but also you're looking at Vic Fangio and for him to tell you, because he's not going to, I mean, he's not going to mince words about it. He'll be truthful. And
Yeah.
if he thinks that, we're a little bit weak here, we're not there yet, he'll let you know. And verbatim just is, nope, we don't need to make a move. Nope, we got who we want. First off, because we have who we need. And then also, secondly, because whoever you get is probably not going to make a drastic difference at this point in the year.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, you know what? Hey, let's roll with who that is. Shaq with the 2, appreciate that, said, should we be worried at all about Washington?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, Washington's good. Although it's so funny, everyone's thinking about the Hail Mary and not the game for the previous 59 minutes
because it
against
ended
the
in a win for
Bears,
them.
where their
Yeah.
offense kicked a bunch of field goals and their defense should have given the game away. Right, the Bears lost that game. The Commanders did not win, so they're good. They're just too young, right? I mean, and that's the simple truth. They're too young. Give them another draft. Give them year 2 Jaden Daniels. Make a couple of free agent moves. They're going to be serious next year. I mean, they're still serious this year. They could beat us on November 14th when we're there, sure, but yeah, I'm not too worried about them.
Yeah, worry is probably maybe a little bit extreme of a word here for worry. Should
Yeah.
we be
Respectful.
should we respect Washington? Absolutely. Because, I mean, first and foremost, if we look at this division, Washington is your biggest competition. They're the biggest
Sure.
challenge. Now, could we lose to Dallas? Sure, because you
Sure.
could have a bad game. Dallas could get hot. It's a rival. They're going to get up for that one. All the other stuff there. But ultimately, I think when you look at this division, you say the Commanders are the ultimate test and the challenge. So if you want to win the division, it starts out with Washington. Take care of business there. But then, bigger picture wise, if you're looking at it, and we went through the NFC contenders, pretenders, where that
Yep.
falls, also the Eagles' schedule, the best chance to set yourself up if and when you play Detroit in the playoffs is obviously to win through this as many games as possible. That starts with the division games. We got 2 against each of them. Obviously, take care of business against the Giants, but be respectful of Washington, because if we come through, it's like, hey, you know what, 6-0 in the division, all right then. Because we're taking care of what we should. And then hopefully, as we say, Detroit maybe slips up a few. And I don't know, we're talking about like a 13-4 Detroit. Can Philly be there at a 13-4? And then it's a tiebreaker on what is it? Division, I think, is the first, or is it conference? So I don't know. It's a possibility, hopefully.
Damon Sanders with another 5 says we're going on a run. 40 burger on the Jags 40-13.
Let's go.
We should have had a 40 burger this past week. Stupid holding call on Tyler Steen for Will Shipley's rushing touchdown. It would have been 41, but
I feel bad for
it could
Will
be.
Shipley.
It could be 100%. I'm with you, Demond. Excuse me. I keep reading that as Desmond. Demons. I'm with you with the 5 for a 40 burger. I love it.
I was, we would all be signing up for that immediately, and hopefully we get it. Which, by the way, we'll also tease this too, just to very briefly. But the scoreboard, which is pretty legit, I would say. I mean, biased, of course. A little change to the scoreboard. And I mean, it doesn't really change too much, but I'll just, it's going to be the vintage throwback, right? Because it's Kelly Green
good.
week. So for people that want to hang out on the live stream with us during the game, all you guys are OGs usually and hanging out anyway, but it'll be cool because it's got the Kelly Green logo and the little tracker and everything else. So we try to do as much as possible, as much authenticity as we can, if you can't be there at the Eagles games. So, shout out to my wife, because that is all her work and as far as the graphics and everything. So, but yes, it'll be pretty legit scoreboard that we're working with for the live stream. So swing on by.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's go for score predictions. Wrap up here for our Wednesday live. I think you said yours earlier, but just for the people who are joining us right now, what do you got? What's your score prediction for Jaguars Eagles?
Absolutely. So I am going with a 30-14. For the game there. The line officially is Eagles -7.5. So, the conventional wisdom might say, there's something's up with Vegas. Should I make it a little bit closer than that? But, I think that we're on the right track. There's the momentum. I don't feel like this team is going to overlook. It could be trap game. Dallas week is the following one. So maybe they're just overthinking it or whatever, or just kind of getting prepared for the next. But I think that they're going to stay ready for the moment, be prepared, take advantage of a weaker team who lost their left tackle by trading away, may not have either of their, or I guess all three wide receivers potentially. This game could get ugly, and so I'm hoping they'll capitalize, keep building on that momentum. But yeah, I'm saying 30 points from the offense, 30 to 14, maybe around the middle of the third quarter ish. We're talking about like, you know what, this one's a wrap. We can kind of rest a little bit easier and go home happy, go home early.
David 1917 says Quinyon pick 6, 2 brotherly shoves, and a long Saquon rushing TD. That would get you to 28. So
Okay.
I wouldn't mind it. Quinyon's got to get a pick. He says 38-10. So a couple of field goals mixed in there as well. But
Gotcha.
I agree. I mean I think 31-17, 30-17, whatever I said earlier. I can't remember 31 or 30, but 30 feels like a number that you will get to in this game. Stay healthy. Don't let up, right? Don't give any of the doubters out there in the media and inside just the fan base who are like, still hesitant. Don't give them any fuel to think that they haven't figured things out. If you go 4 straight weeks, and really 3 straight weeks are looking good because the Browns game didn't look that good, but 4 straight wins, 3 straight double-digit wins, I think the entire city is going to start to kind of jump on the hype train. And when that happens, the Linc gets a lot louder. Remember how quiet it was in the second half of the Browns game? It's like, this is not happening right now. I'm looking forward to that as well. So I'll say 30-17.
Yes, I love it. All right. Well, if we get that happening, it's not going to be a fun day for Trevor Lawrence and all them sorts. But
Nope.
I guess the only follow-up question to that with the score predictions is we I don't know how many weeks in a row we didn't start out asking this because it didn't feel like we needed to ask this question, but at this point we certainly do. Do they finally score in the first quarter? They did score in their opening possession last week, but still they did not score in the first quarter.
Yes.
So is this the week? It is
for sure. Probably a field goal. I think they probably go down and score a field goal on their opening drive.
Come on. Okay.
But yeah, they're gonna score in the opening drive. If I'm Nick Sirianni, accept the coin toss, go down, score, crowd's pumped, get a quick turnover, this thing's over.
Okay. They are undefeated in the Kelly Green. So it's like Kelly Green jerseys, undefeated in those, the momentum.
Ooh, it's going to look good.
The only thing, it's not Sunday Night Football game, but you know what? They'll still look fantastic. It just won't be the bright light shining off of them. But I'm going to say, yes, they score in the first quarter. I'm going to say touchdown. I'm going to say opening drive. They just march down the field, score a touchdown, and hopefully, we have a very relaxing remainder of the game with turnovers and great plays and everything else. So we shall see.
Shout out Hertz News for the 2. How y'all doing, my friends? Appreciate you hanging out. We're doing great. You missed the show. If you're just joining us, you can watch it back. It's going to be able to just rewind a little bit. And a reminder for everyone who's wondering when the tickets are given away, halftime of the Jags and Eagles game. That's when you'll see us spin the wheel. That's when you'll see who wins it. And then you're going to have a couple days to claim them, and we would respin next Wednesday during this live show if we do not hear back, right?
Correct. So, yes. We will both announce on our game recap videos. So between both, I mean, someone should be able to see that, hopefully. And then you will have, till the next week's Wednesday Linc. And if we don't hear from that person, then anyone on the live stream on the link, then you'll get a chance to win it because we'll spin it away for someone in the actual stream chat. So, but surely, I mean, out of all the individuals, and who knows, maybe, if you want to swing by for the live stream, maybe you win it and you're actually on the stream. That would be even better. If just right then and there we could say, oh, great, awesome, congrats, you're going to be there. But I agree. Yes, it will be a blast. So there you go. Eagles got a favorable matchup, but they still got to take care of business. I think we're all expecting that. The question is, can they continue to build this momentum? We shall see. But as a reminder, if you've not already, get in on that ticket giveaway. Make sure to sub to both channels. Go check out the links in the description and or just go to the game recaps that both of us have posted up. Enter the comments there. And best of luck to you because I'm sure that we'll have something like 3,000, 4,000 entries by the time that we get there. It's ridiculous. But
Yep. Gonna be fun.
Go Birds with a 2. I don't see a comment, but go Birds. We appreciate that.
Go
at
Birds.
The buzzer, the Go Birds. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Until next time, more videos to come. We will see you guys. Go Birds.
See you guys. Go Birds.